Hi, welcome to Therapy Podcast. My name is Mouse.
My name is Ryan.
And tonight we'll be discussing Yorgos Lanthimos' 2009 masterful case of Arrested Development, Dogtooth.
Dogtooth, it is not about a banana stand, unfortunately. It is, however, about this family who's indoctrinated with a fictional reality determined by the family's patriarch. Over the course of the film, we learn about the family's belief system and see it become uprooted by the influence of evil outside stimuli.
Evil.
Yes. You want to get into the characters? You want to
Yes.
do a little rundown of those?
Let's meet the family. I don't know what their last names are.
No, we don't know.
We don't know
any of their
names.
Yeah.
So we have the father, who is obviously the head of the house. He's the one who makes the rules and the world that this family is living in, specifically the children.
Yeah. The father is the only one that can leave the property.
Yeah, the premises of their home.
Yeah.
And then we have the older daughter, who we will call the eldest, and she's kind of the most rebellious out of the three of them, but even still, that's kind of reserved up until she's at her final point.
Yeah, she's like rebellious compared to the other two children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we have the son, who we will call Son. And he's kind of the golden child of the family. Both the father and the mother seem to hold him to a higher pedestal than the other two children. And then we have the younger daughter, who we will call Younger. And she's kind of the most naive out of the three. We keep seeing children, but they're quite literally adults.
like, we don't know how old they are. We don't even know their names, of course.
Right.
They, at least are in their young 20s.
Yes.
At most, could be like late 20s, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I don't even know. I know one daughter is older than the other daughter, but I don't know where the son really fits in.
Yeah, I don't know if he's younger.
At some points, he seems the most childlike, but he could also be the oldest child.
And then completing the family, we have the mother, who is, personally, I don't know if she's in or out of the joke.
Yeah, her level of involvement in this creation of a belief system,
yes,
is unknown.
Right. And the serpent entering this Garden of Eden that the father has created is Christine. She is a security guard at the company that the father, I believe, owns. And he has paid her to come and satisfy the son.
Yes.
So that's the family. Let's just get into this film.
Yeah, let's start with the opening scene. The first thing that we see is like a finger pressing play on some tape recorder, and then we hear this voice saying what the words of the day are.
Yes.
And the words of the day are fairly simple. They are sea, as in like, water, sea, ocean, sea, motorway, excursion, and then carbine. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's how I've always referred to it in Call of Duty.
In Call of Duty.
And we get definitions to these words
that don't quite add up.
So C is a leather chair. Motorway is a strong wind. Excursion is a resistant material. My personal favorite of the example sentences. And then carbine is a white bird. A beautiful white bird.
Beautiful white bird.
Yeah. So over the course of the film, there's other tapes, and we learned that the mother records these tapes for her kids, and they act both as kind of a educational tool with which she gives them information, and then sometimes also like a testing tool. That she uses to test what they have learned, I guess.
Right. So the words expressed to us at the beginning of the film are never really used throughout the movie, but we do see examples like at the dinner table, which I believe is the first time that we were I feel like it caught our attention, is when the youngest sister asked the mother to pass her the telephone at the dinner table, and I'm here sitting being like, they're allowed to use the phone during dinner. But we see that the mother then passes her the salt shaker.
Yeah.
And then it just clicks.
Yeah.
The
like,
intro. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
And then our pens were like... And then another example we see at the dinner table, I think at a different time.
Yeah, yeah.
Is when the eldest, I believe, asked the mother what the word pussy means.
Yeah.
To which the mother replied, "Where did you learn that word?" And the sister said she saw it on a video that was on the VCR in their home. Yeah. And the mother was quick to reply that the word pussy means big light. And then one of the last examples that we have is when the son asked his mother what the word zombie means, which was introduced to him by Christina. And she was quick to reply that it was a small yellow flower.
Yeah, yeah. You know, basically, these parents are manipulating the language that their kids know.
Yes.
To hide parts of culture and parts of just technology. And
I think it's also with the introduction of Christina, I believe, you know, they never had to hear certain words. So now that they're asking about them because they hear it from Christina or other things, they are having to create this language now. Like, I don't know how long it's been going on to where they have been mixing words up, but I feel like it would make sense that they started this once they started bringing in like outside influences like Christina to cover their tracks.
But the telephone, like, that just strikes me as something like they never wanted the kids to know what a telephone was, so they just referred to salt as a telephone. So if somebody ever mentions telephone to them, they just think it's salt. You know?
But okay, so they have the secret telephone in their room. So it could be the case where maybe the mother or the father said the word telephone for the first time.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, the telephone is just the salt shaker.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's more to cover their tracks versus something that they premeditative.
Interesting. I mean, possibly, but why introduce a gun? I feel like it's premeditated.
Okay.
Like, at some point they may interact with someone that uses the word gun. So we need to like define that for them.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, it could be both. So it could have started off as something too.
Let's give it that. It's both.
It's both.
In addition to like just vocabulary in general, they also have created this fictional, like Eden-esque environment for their kids, in which they have like a fence lining the property that the house is on. They have a huge yard, and then they are not allowed to leave the yard. And it's not even that they're not allowed to, per se. It's more like
they're afraid to.
Yeah, they feel like it's just not even
possible.
Yeah, it's like not even a thing.
Yeah, they can't even fathom the fact that they can leave the estate because the family has created a system of levels to which one can enter and exit the home. So the belief system that they have is that they cannot leave the premises of the home until one of their dog teeth fall out.
All right, so of course losing your dog tooth, or any tooth for that matter, wouldn't happen in a normal person that's of relatively normal health.
Right.
You would lose teeth if your teeth went bad or whatever, and that's it. You'd be pretty old if that happens. So the fact that they tell them that they can leave, or that it's really that they're ready to leave when their dog tooth falls out. It's like a natural thing that happens. That's the way I feel like it's structured to them. Yes. The fact that they have introduced that rule to the kids means that they just want to keep them there indefinitely. Yeah. And they use this character who we never see that could be completely fictitious. Yeah, fabricated. I don't know by who.
But we know him as the brother.
Yeah. So we see a couple of scenes with the son that we do see interacting or like talking to this brother when he's just like, his face is like this far from the bush that lines the fence.
Yes.
And then he starts throwing rocks over the fence. Oh. And what?
No, my favorite line is when he's like, I need you to know that I clean the car better than you.
He never forgets the air freshener except that one time.
Except that one time. I feel like that's such a kid thing to say, like, except for that one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, with the brother, I'm not sure who created him because the father seems really happy to end this theory of the brother who is outside.
It feels more connected to the children than it does to the parents.
Yeah.
So it could have been that maybe they heard a noise or maybe somebody was walking by and they hear talking. And then they're like, oh, that's our brother or something like that. Or like they hear that and the parents are like, oh, that's your like brother. He's like out there like doing his best.
I assumed it was because there were two daughters and there's only one son, that he would think like, where is my brother? Like, where is the other, one that looks like me?
Yeah.
And I assumed that that's where it came from. Either, the kids themselves creating this belief of what happened to this theoretical brother, or, just the parents creating a story for them again.
Right.
In either case, the brother is utilized by the parents to reinforce the safety that they are provided by staying in the garden or in the house or whatever. We just see the brother or the son or whatever.
Yeah, this is common stuff.
Yeah, we just see him doing cartwheels, and then he suddenly stops doing cartwheels and he like runs off.
Right.
Like he's afraid. And then the next thing we see, he comes back with these
and the sisters are in the house, like by the window, like terrified.
Yeah. And the next thing we see is the brother like coming out like really like sneaky from behind a bush with these like pruning shears or whatever you call them. And there's a cat that is sitting there on the grass.
He's just chilling.
Yeah. He came out of nowhere. Anyway, we of course we see the son kill the cat, and this is what the father uses to like eliminate this fictional brother that they have.
Yes.
So we see him lather himself up with fake blood and cut his pants up and then come and say that
your brother is dead.
And that a cat killed him. And the cat is like the most vicious,
dangerous creature.
Yeah. Like a human's biggest enemy, basically, is a cat. And anyway, we see another use of like something that actually happened to the kids being fictionalized, but in this case, like greatly embellished. Like they don't create or define what a cat is.
Right. They
don't change that, but they do like, create this mythos around what a cat is.
Yes. And
use that to
further like frighten them from like going outside.
Yeah.
So the father obviously sees himself as the puppet master of his family. And so one of the ways that he kind of boosts his own status between his children is there's a scene where he brings fish into the swimming pool.
Yeah.
And one of the daughters, I believe is the younger one, she comes in and she's like, Dad, there's fish in the pool. And he put them there, but he acts as if like, oh, I can deal with fish.
Yeah.
And so he grabs his harpoon, jumps into the pool, and slaughters these fish with a tool that's way too big for them. But just to seem like a hero in his children's eyes.
Yeah.
I do feel like the concept of the father is really interesting. Just him so badly wanting to create the perfect children, controlling their, like we said, their language, their belief system, just controlling their daily routine and how the mother takes care of them.
He does also control the mother somewhat.
Yes.
Like, as we mentioned, we are not sure how much of our participant she is in this belief system. Like,
yes,
she really could be like his first like victim, I guess.
And she has like Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, like she could be completely indoctrinated by him as well.
Right.
But we're not sure.
Yeah.
But
she is giving like special privileges, like watching porn, using the telephone, and
there is the scene in which the son has killed the cat. Then it cuts to like the father is on the phone, you know, with the mother, and we don't hear what she's saying, but we hear the father say like,
"You did the right thing."
Yeah, you did the right thing, or like, I agree with you, or something like that.
Yeah.
And like that does give her some autonomy.
Yes.
In this structure. However, we do see her get down on all fours and bark along with the family.
Yeah, and then she like, the concept of licking becomes really prominent in the family, and she imitates this as a form of appeasement for the father. And so it's like, we don't really know where she lies, but we know that she is somewhat indoctrinated, but somewhat given special privileges.
Yeah. Okay, so the title of the film is Dogtooth. The family refers to their teeth, or those two teeth in particular, as dog teeth or whatever. The father goes and has a dog at some sort of like training facility. However, I don't think the family understands what a dog is, right? Or has been introduced to a dog.
Right.
I think they have, per the father's like direction, I suppose, they have incorporated like dog-like behaviors into their daily lives, like the barking and the licking.
Okay, I didn't make that connection.
And it's very strange.
It is very strange.
Yeah.
And then throughout the film, near the end, we see the mother create this idea of like, oh, I'm pregnant now.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's where we see the mother at her like highest form of power, where she creates this idea that she is pregnant now with twins, and she will also birth a dog.
Yes.
And the kids are tested to I don't know, hold their breath or something in the pool.
Yeah, I mean, there's this whole other like reward system that they're given.
Oh yeah.
That has to do with these stickers. And they all have like stickers on their bed, like on their headboard and footboard. And it's uncertain how long the sticker reward system has been going on.
Right. They don't have that many stickers.
They don't have that many stickers, but also maybe some of their stickers are taken away. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
The father is typically very concerned with the children working out or exercising. And that's typically how they earn stickers, I think.
Okay.
But then with this new pregnancy announcement, the reward for
the children is to either not share a room with the newborn children that will come out, or the mom could avoid giving birth if all of the children are good.
She could avoid it.
Yes.
But the dog's out of the question.
Yeah, the dog is happening.
She's going to birth the dog
no matter
as soon
what.
as possible.
I do feel like there is like a very cute moment with the mother that I really enjoy, where
cute. Okay.
I think it's cute. It's part of their tests where they're all blindfolded in a certain part of the estate.
Okay. And
they are being tested to find the mother, like, by just using their other 4 senses.
Yeah.
Aside from sight. And I think it's, I don't know, the way that when the mother is like holding their children, her children, like, I think it's cute how they're all like, they know it's a test, but it's also a game to them. Like, yeah, I believe like it's something that they truly love doing, because after, when they like reach their mother, they like hug her dearingly, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's, to me, like, for their family, it's a cute moment.
Okay.
I'm personally really interested in their form of, like, yes, reward, but their form of punishments. Like, you would think that a father who is so adamant in having such positive, perfect children would focus on the positive side of parenting.
Like positive reinforcement.
Yeah, positive reinforcement. But there is obviously some sort of physical punishment if things are not correct. We see the form of punishment being the most visual and active when the father strikes his child over and over again with the VHS. The VHS that the eldest had been watching secretly. And so you see him smacking her with it, but you also see them in tiny like spurts and bruises and cuts on the children. I feel like there have been a number of times where I saw like a new bruise or like a new slice on them that I hadn't seen before.
The eldest daughter has like a scar here.
Yeah. I do, like, for the case of this movie, I do like those little touches, like, of like, this is never explained.
Yeah, so the father isn't the only one handing out discipline, really.
Mm-hmm.
The children themselves kind of take it upon themselves to punish each other.
Mm-hmm.
So we see the son play with this toy plane,
mm-hmm.
which is, you know, something, I don't know, like a 5-year-old would do, and this 20-something-year-old out here doing it. Anyway, he is playing with this toy plane, and the eldest daughter just comes up, and she's like, "What the hell are you doing? That's mine." And they kind of wrestle for the plane, and she takes it, and she goes and throws it.
There's like brother.
Outside of the fence, basically.
Yeah.
There's like a slot between the garage door, I guess.
Right.
The sliding door that opened for the car, and the top half of the fence. Anyway, she throws it out there, and she goes running back into the house. And then we see the brother like go to the fence and look over the fence, and it's just sitting there, and he cannot go out and get it. Like, it's just, he cannot fathom, I think is the word he said. It's just not.
It's beyond him to physically go out there and get it. Like,
it's like not an option that he can comprehend, basically.
Right.
Yeah. It's just there, and he can't get it. And he makes his way back into the house. I assume to like tell on her or something.
Mm-hmm.
But she's already there with a knife, and she just like slices his arm.
Yeah, it was quite brutal.
Yeah, it was like, whoa, that just came out of nowhere. And so she is punishing him multiple times.
Yeah.
One, taking away the toy, and two, like with physical violence,
mm-hmm.
like slashing his arm. And then the next scene that we see is like the mother just like pushing her down on the bed and like hitting her in the face,
mm-hmm.
like as punishment for slicing the brother's arm.
Yeah.
Later on, there's a scene in which it's nighttime, everyone's asleep, and we hear this like yelling, and it's the son like yelling out in pain, and the parents go in there, and the younger daughter, she has hit him on the knee with a hammer.
Right.
Though she does blame it on a cat that had intruded in the house.
Yeah, she saw the cat with a hammer. He was real quick. He just jumped out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, physical violence between the family members is very prominent as well.
And common. Like, it's almost like, you know, to be sliced up with a knife by your sister, I feel like is a very, like, shocking thing. And I felt like it is treated as if it's a daily occurrence, or like so apathetically. Like, yes, she did get punished, but it's like, you know, her slicing her brother up with a knife is the same as her, like, you know, like maybe stealing her sister's toothbrush.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, there's no levels of different punishments.
Right.
I do.
The younger sister also has like a pretty large bandage on her arm.
I was gonna mention
for like
that.
half of the movie.
Yeah.
Without knowing what that's for.
I was like, I thought in to me, like, my theory or whatever, my fan theory is that she did it in parts to almost, what's the word? She did it to, like, kind of comfort her brother, to be like, look, I have one too. Like, I think that would be a concept that she would do. Okay. Like, she would do it to, like, almost console her brother, to be like, we're going through this together. Yeah. Because it's almost in the same spot.
Right.
So, and it, like, kind of turns up after it happened, I think.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it could have been that something else had happened to her that we just don't know, but for me, like, it makes sense for her to do that as, like, a way to be like, hey, brother, like, I got your back.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Some camaraderie there.
Yeah. So, kind of harping back on, like, the world that this family has created for themselves, there is, like, a very big outside object that just cannot be avoided, and that's airplanes.
Oh, yeah.
The first time we see an airplane, we see it on the film, that the family film that the family is watching to entertain themselves, which is another concept I want to get into.
There are more airplanes in this movie than in Roma.
Yes. But then we see it again, and the eldest sister says, oh, when it falls, I'm going to catch it. And
then the mother smacks her.
Yeah.
And says, whoever deserves it will get it. Yes,
but before her mother smacked her, there was, like, some time for you to think. And I was like, is she just saying that? Does she believe that the airplanes are just going to fall out of the sky?
Yeah.
And then her mom smacks her and says, whoever catches it is the one who is deserving of it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And then we see it somewhere in the middle of the movie. The father is conducting a test, and he's handing out rewards. And then at some point, he's like, oh, look, a plane. And the mother throws the plane out into the garden, and the father says, whoever catches it is the winner, or something like that. And so they're all hunting for this plane that fell, and it's another toy plane that the eldest sister has earned because she's the one who got it first. I wonder. Sorry, I'm wondering, like, how many planes do they have? Is it the same plane?
No, I think there's multiple planes, because the one that the brother is playing with, the son, I keep calling him brother, you keep calling him. The one he is playing with is pretty small, and then the one that we see the mother throw, that the eldest gets, is much larger. So, I mean, there's multiple toy planes. Okay. There's just a ton of planes that fly over this house. Even when we don't see planes, like, they're kind of like omnipresent almost, just the sound of them flying by. Yeah. I think the first time we're even introduced to it is in this extremely awkward and, like, cringy initial sex scene that we see between the son and Christina. Okay. They are, like, having the worst sex I've ever seen. And you hear, like, an airplane fly over. You also hear, like, crickets as well. Yeah. It's really bad. So this film very much has to do with film. Yes. So you mentioned porn. We see the parents watch porn. It may be of themselves. Yes. I think it is. I'm not sure. Well, I wasn't trying to look that closely. Okay, yeah. We see, the first time Christina is there, they're like, oh, can we take a video with Christina? We don't have a video with her yet. Right. And the father starts to film them just sitting there with her. It's super weird. And then when they're at the dinner table, the son has done such a good job on something. Oh, he has the most stickers, I think. Yeah. So he gets to decide what tonight's entertainment is, and he chooses to watch a home video. Right. Because that is all of their selection, basically. The only form of media that they have. Yeah. We see them start to play the video, and, it is a home recording that the father has filmed, and he has filmed, like, over the same home video multiple times. Like, it shows them, like, in the yard, and then it shows, like, it cuts to a plane, basically. Cuts back to them doing something else, and then cuts back to the same plane. It's been, like, filmed over itself multiple times. Okay. And then we see, of course, kind of the major conflict of the film. Is when Christina trades these VHS tapes for oral sex with the eldest daughter. And the eldest daughter watches these tapes, and the father kind of catches her. I assume he caught her, or at least she like came clean about it.
Yes.
And that's when he punishes her by like beating her with the VHS.
Well, after watching the films, like she was so impressioned by them that she was just constantly quoting them like every single day.
Yeah. So we don't see the movies specifically, but we know that she watched Rocky, and IMDb has clarified it as a Rocky 4.
Okay.
That's the quote that she...
I think she watched Jaws.
Yeah, she watches Jaws. That's quoted when they're in the pool. And then... Flashdance is the last movie that we know that she watched based on her dance number at the end of the movie. Overall, when she is caught, we see her being punished, and then the father goes to Christina's little flat or apartment or whatever, and also like beats her with her own VCR.
Right.
And I feel like the belief system comes in when he is standing in the doorway over her, like her body as she's laying there, like in pain or whatever. He kind of curses her children, her future children, and says like this is what she gets for bringing evil into their family. And
evil being media.
Yeah, I mean the fact that he uses the term evil in reference to what she physically brought into the house, which was these VHSs,
right?
This cinema, basically sums up the entire ethos of this family and of the point of the film, I think. And it's that evil, when you apply it to like the Garden of Eden, and he consistently refers to their yard and property as the garden. When you apply evil to it through this form of cinema, which we see give the eldest daughter a sense of identity, because nobody has names.
Right.
And there's a great scene in which she is sitting there with the younger daughter, and she was like, "Hey, just call me Bruce, and I will look, and I will turn and look at you.
Like I will be." If you call me Bruce, I will acknowledge that you are referencing to me as a person.
And she's like laying there on her lap, and the younger daughter says, "Bruce," and she like turns and looks at her.
She gets up and this is like Bruce, and she's like, wait, hold on. She's like,
and then she goes and stands over there, and she's like, "Bruce," and she's like,
and the youngest sister, not really understanding the concept of having a name, she's like, I want a name. And the oldest one is like, what name do you want? And she's like,
any name.
Yeah, and she's like rubbing the sister's back. So she's like, I want my name to be Back. She's like, bitch.
She's like, you can't have a name Back because Back is what we call our back.
Right.
Like it already is a thing.
Yeah.
And anyway, so cinema has introduced this sense of identity to a member of the family, in this case the eldest daughter, with which she has gained this newfound independence, and ultimately through this sense of independence and identity she is trying to escape and like have freedom from this
garden,
utopia of this garden that her father has set up.
Okay, so it's kind of like reflecting what the media itself is calling itself. Like it's a bad influence. Like TV is a bad influence.
Yeah.
Which I find funny that he is in such a state where he thinks he is developing the most perfect children, but his children are still lying to him and to others. They are, stabbing each other. They still fight, and I mean they are no better, if not worse, than regular children. Because
I mean, it's like a cautionary tale against Christianity, in which we as Christians are formed in the eye of their maker.
Right.
And like for these kids in this family, like their only influence is their parents.
Right.
Is their makers.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically their father. And yeah, they are like, you know, little fuckers, basically.
Right, because he's a little fucker.
Regardless of how much he's tried to control their situation.
Right.
And protect them from evils.
Right.
Okay, so this also, being that it is, in some sense, a film about the meaning of film, it pays specific attention to, like, the structure of the film itself. Like, Yorgos Lanthimos has paid so much attention to how the film is structured and the specific, like, symbolism that's involved in the film.
Okay.
And I can kind of go into that.
Yeah, go into it.
So I was breaking down, like, the structure of the movie, trying to think about, like, where the acts were, if it was, like, a 3-act film. It's, like, just over an hour and a half.
Right.
So it actually, like, breaks up into 3 30-minute segments, like, pretty
cleanly.
Yeah, pretty cleanly. And it just so happens that I noticed, if you take the opening scene in which you see the tape recorder, and then I think it focuses on the youngest daughter in the center of the screen. Well, it kind of cuts back and forth between the kids as they're listening to it. And then they start to talk about this game of endurance that they're going to play. If you take that scene kind of as a, like, standalone introduction, like a prologue, then it's very clearly split into 3 acts, all of which start with Christina.
Okay.
In the first act, Christina is blindfolded. She's on the way to the house with the father. Act 2 starts when Christina returns to the house, and she has the scene in which she's trading the headband with the eldest daughter. Okay. And then Act 3 is when Christina is back at the house, and she tries to trade her hair gel, and then fails, and then trades the videotapes. So that's when the acts would start. The acts would end. The first act would end when they're playing that, like, Marco Polo-esque game in which they find their mother. And that has, like, the only noticeable use of a non-diegetic sound. So every other sound is happening in the film. That scene is, part of it is happening in the film, but then it cuts to other places.
To where the sound is, like, strong still.
Yeah, like where the sound could not be.
Yeah.
But it is still there.
Yes.
And it's a unique scene in that regard with the sound. But there is music at the end of that scene, or at the end of what I would assume to be Act 1. Act 2 ends, I think, when the Frank Sinatra song is playing and the father is translating it into whatever he thinks he wants it to be translated into. So Act 2 also ends with that music. And then Act 3, I don't know when it ends exactly, because we do have music. Like, when she's doing the flash dance, the son is playing guitar, but then the movie goes on for, like, a long time. So I don't know if that's technically the end of Act 3 and then we have an epilogue, or if it's meant to be like, there's no specific ending, just like how the film ends itself.
Right.
Like, it's
kind of just like a flat line.
Yeah.
Ending.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's intentional. I mean, I just noticed how these patterns could fit into, like, a 3-act structure. Yeah. And yeah, the ending is questionable to me.
I do find, like, the parallel of on-screen media versus, like, music media. It's almost like music is good, because the father is often heard singing when he plays the music who he claims is their grandfather, who is actually Frank Sinatra. He is using that almost as a hymn to recite to the children, like the song that he's singing in our translation says, The father loves us, the mother loves us, we are a good family,
Like
so like
we love our house
right,
and
like
we treat it well or something like
right. It's almost like either like a chant or like a hymn, something like that, to kind of like
that. It like reinforces
yeah,
what should be like moral values, I guess.
mm-hmm. And I mean, even in the film, like as using it as a closer for the acts, I think shows that like uh almost like okay, this is good enough, this is over, you know.
Yeah,
like the scene is over.
Yeah.
And so I like the parallel of like even the father can't dismiss music because it's like too powerful to even fathom to be a life without music, you know.
Right. I think I know why music is included in kind of this acceptable form of entertainment,
right.
I guess. So we do see many references to music. Of course, the Frank Sinatra song.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, the son plays the guitar, like I said. He also plays the piano. And then the father does sing. And that's because I feel like music is mathematical.
Okay.
Specifically like with like sound waves.
Okay.
And how sound waves can be graphed and applied directly to like trigonometry. So the very first visual that we have is
the Dogtooth,
like the Dogtooth poster, I guess,
or
what the poster is based on, or whatever.
My brain is about to get blown right now.
The poster uses these like parabolic shapes. The blue line is the same. It's like the graph of sine, okay. Like f of x equals sine of x.
Okay.
Would be that same exact like blue line that's in the poster. That's also called a sine wave or a sinusoid.
Sinusoid.
Sounds like a dinosaur.
It does.
Yeah. Sounds like a dinosaur with like a big nose. All right, then there's the yellow line. That would be like the x-axis in the graph. And then the red line is just another like distorted sine wave.
Okay.
But I feel like the blue line is representative of like the sound waves in the music that we hear throughout the film. And it's a common motif that the children especially are typically in some kind of water. Like they're constantly, like the first scene that we see them, they're talking about putting their finger underwater. They're constantly in the pool. And if they're not in the pool, they're in like the bathtub.
Right.
So like water and waves and music and waves all kind of relate back to this movie poster.
Okay.
The red line, how it's like curved and then it's flat and then it's curved again and then it's flat. There's similar sort of graphs that I saw that have to do with like parameters being set.
Okay.
And like I saw one graph, it was like it used the word clipped, like the curve has been clipped off, and that could be in reference to like their clipped sense of growth and maturation, and how their personalities are being stunted by their environment that they're growing up in. And then with the colors of the graph specifically, I mean, one, I think those colors are used because they look nice.
Right. Yeah.
It's like a pale yellow backdrop with a yellow line, a red line, and then a blue line.
Right.
But of course, those are primary colors, and have to harken back to like the innocence of the kids, primary like representation of
their state,
their childlike state, even though they're at whatever age they're at.
Yeah.
Also, those colors, red, blue, and yellow, are used kind of throughout the film. Almost in every single scene, there's either yellow, blue, or red. A couple of scenes that really stood out to me are like the opening shot that is focused on the younger daughter. Just it's the very first scene of anyone that we see,
Yeah.
And behind her, like all the way to the right of the frame, there are like 2 bottles. I think she's like in the bathtub.
Yeah,
or
she's
something.
in the bathtub.
Yeah. There's like 2 bottles. One of them has like a blue cap and one has a yellow cap.
Interesting.
It's like stuff like that placed throughout the film that I kept seeing. One of the most prominent uses of the red, yellow, and blue color motif is when the father goes to his place of work, whatever that place is.
Yeah.
But those colors are used on the machinery.
Oh, interesting.
I think the stairs are a color. And yeah, it shows it like from different angles, those 3 colors. And then also when he goes to Christina's apartment, like the chairs I think are yellow, the table is blue, and then the curtains are red.
Damn, I wasn't looking at any of that.
Yeah, anyway, it runs throughout the movie, very prominent in a lot of scenes, more subtle in other scenes.
Okay.
But then also green is like sprinkled in here and there.
Almost to symbolize, like, I feel like it's mainly at the house, like the greenery that's in the garden.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a, in that scene when the father goes to work that I mentioned, the employees that you can barely see, when he's walking up the steps, you can see one kind of like bit behind a piece of machinery or something. And he has a green shirt, like that's a uniform. When the father is like, I guess after he gets back from Christina's and like, you know, battering her with the VCR, he is trying to mouth to the mom like that they need to find a replacement for Christina, and that you can't really trust anyone anymore. Anyway, there's a bottle like on the counter right there that has like a nice like pale green lid. I guess it's like milk or something, but
yeah.
So there's more parts of the structure that stood out to me as well.
Okay.
Not necessarily like the structure of the plot, but how the film itself is framed.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so like how individual shots are framed.
Okay.
I was just like bombarded by like every scene. It seemed as if, almost as if like the subject of the scene wasn't even in the frame.
Right.
Like often the person that was talking was either cut off by the frame itself or just not even in frame.
Yeah.
And it made you focus on things that wouldn't normally be focused on, I guess.
Right.
I mean, there's so many shots. Like when we first see Christina, she's in the car, and the camera is like in the back seat, just looking at her diagonally.
Right.
And like the seat where the father is completely cut off. But you hear him talking, but you can't see him, and you haven't seen him yet.
Yeah, we haven't met him yet.
Yeah. There's one scene in which one of the daughters is sitting on the floor, and the other one is standing on the couch, and she, the one sitting on the floor, kind of like has her like head bitten back to like rest on the seat of the couch, and the one standing is, you know, standing, and you can only see like her legs, and then you only see the profile of the other girl, and it's not really clear. Like I didn't know which one was which at first.
Okay.
Because I mean, I couldn't tell who it was from the profile.
Right.
And then I couldn't see who it was because I just saw their legs.
Yeah, I feel like as far as the sisters go, they look pretty similar. The main thing that's like distinct about them is like their hairstyle. Like one has like a shaggier look, and the other one has like a straight kind of cut.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can definitely see that being confusing.
Yeah, there was so much subject matter that was like intentionally like chopped off of the frame itself. Like
the scene with the airplane the first time, like you see the younger sister in the distance laying in the grass, and then you hear vroom, and then you see a hand, and you don't, I mean, it could have been the oldest sister, it could have been the brother, we don't really know until the older sister comes in and like beats the shit out of him for this plane.
And it's so thorough throughout the entire film, it's hard to like think of specific examples almost. But then similarly, not just cutting off the physical attributes of the frame itself, but scenes tend to be like cut off before they end necessarily.
Okay.
Like the starts again at the beginning of the movie, they're talking about doing this game of endurance,
Yeah.
in which they hold their finger under the water or whatever.
But we never see the
We
game.
never see the game.
Yeah.
There's so much like information that is withheld from us intentionally,
right?
That we have to just like connect the dots, like infer with,
right?
And
I mean, that on top of like the mixed language, like I felt throughout the whole movie, once I realized that some words didn't actually mean what they meant, I'm like, okay, but what does this mean? What does that mean?
I know. I wrote down so many words with like a question mark. Like, oh, this word has to mean something else.
Yeah.
Now.
So I felt like the movie itself like was representing the parents' like the way that they entertain the children to distract them from what is going on. Does that make sense? So I felt like they're like mixing up so much information for the kids that they can't really understand what's going on.
Okay.
Most of the times. And so like I felt like we were put in the same sort of situation with the dialogue and with the way that scenes were cut. Like we really don't know what's going on.
Okay.
And then even at the end, you think you know, like you think you've grown to understand what is happening, only to find out that you don't know shit.
Right. I mean, yeah, like we never know for sure what the movies that she watches are. In fact, we don't even know how many movies she watches, because we only see 2, but then there's references to 3 movies.
Right.
So like, are there others?
And we only get to know that she watched it for at least one night, but to watch 2 movies in one night, that's at least 4 hours.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a long time to be able to be caught, you know?
Right.
And like I don't know if it's like part of how rigorously they train, that she can watch a movie once and quote like almost the whole thing. You know, it could be in reference to like their almost like childlike state where, you know, like kids watch something once and then they will repeat it endlessly.
Yeah.
But like the passage of time, I think also adds on to the confusion. Like we don't know how long things have been kind of introduced, or how long procedures have been like going on, like certain training habits have been going on with the kids. We don't know how long this movie takes place in. It seems like it could be in the course of like a couple weeks.
Yeah, like time is very confusing in this film. Like we only see her watch movies, and we don't even see her watch the movie. We see her after the movie has finished, and it's just static, on the static screen. Like she's just sitting there, kind of. She could have watched the same movies multiple nights, or like, you know, that could have been like the 5th time that she watched the movie. We have no idea.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of to piggyback off of like confusion and the passage of time, like the father has a dog that is being trained at this facility, and he is under the impression that his dog's training is complete, and he feels like enough time has passed to where he can bring the dog into the home. And the trainer says, oh, he's not ready. Yeah. Like, he's only at this level.
He's only on stage 1. There's 5 stages.
There's apparently 5 stages. Yeah. And we don't know how long the dog has been there. Yeah. The family obviously has never seen a dog before, but like a real dog.
Yeah. So,
like, they have to know what a dog is.
They have to know what a dog is, because when he says that she's pregnant with 2 whatever and a dog, like, there's no explanation of what a dog is, so they have to know what a dog is already. And
then they like bark like a dog, so they have to know that a dog is real.
That is even more strange.
Yeah, so like I do feel like they understand the concept of what a dog is.
That's even more strange, that they would then know what a dog is and what its behaviors would be. Right. And then act like that.
That's what I'm saying. That's like, even it's more very strange. Weird. Or it was confusing for me because, like, he talked about bringing the dog. And, like, I felt like at the beginning I didn't understand whether it was to either keep the dog outside to make the children more scared of going outside. Because this was going to be a trained dog to, like, you know, viciously attack.
Yeah, the only training that we see...
either vermin or people.
Yeah, the only training that we see is, like, an attack command being trained.
Right.
where he's, you know, attacking some guy with like a protective thing on his arm.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
So
I don't know what
I
he's
mean,
being trained for. Exactly.
it could either be trained to like, you know, kill cats that or whatever critter decides to intrude their Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Or it could be trained to attack the children whenever they decide like enough's enough, I'm gonna go outside regardless.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure of what the real status of having a dog was going to imply to this family.
Yeah, that is interesting because, you know, there's an outside party training the dog.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do see the father interact or try to interact with the dog,
right,
it seems to like
be unresponsive.
Yeah, like unresponsive. Like
he like calls out his name, like Rex, like
like a lot.
Yeah, and the dog is like,
like if it is being trained, like it is questionable what it is even being trained for.
Right.
And then who is going to give it commands?
Right.
If they have not been the one.
That's what
to interact with it at all.
Yeah, that's what I felt like when I saw that. I was like, it's strange for the dog to be trained. Like, I understand there's like dog training, like there's service dogs that are trained to like do specific things, and like the person who they are being trained for isn't always there, you know? Like,
yeah.
So, I mean, it could be, dogs could easily, I mean, I don't know shit about dogs.
I feel like, you know, you can take a dog, someone's dog, and train it, and then give it back to them. And then they will have formed a bond previous to the training that will hold up for the training.
Right.
But there does not appear to be any sort of bond between the father and this dog.
Yeah. And so, like, it's strange to think that, like, he thinks that he will be able to control the dog. And I do find that, like, parallel really interesting because when he goes to visit Christina at her apartment and, like, beats her with her VCR, he says, like, I hope your children have bad personalities. Or, you know, like, it's not even, like, what he perceives as a bad personality is to be disobedient. So, like, it's such, like, a connection to, like, having control over, like, a dog, you know, training them to be, like, the perfect guard dog. The same as his children. He's, like, set up this idea that he's training them to be, like, the perfect outside people, you know?
Right.
Like, at some point, the kids have this idea that at some point they will be, like, strong enough, like cunning enough to go outside.
Right.
But they're, like, being trained right now, and they understand that they're not done with their training.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they are being trained like dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking, like, maybe he hasn't even thought about how bringing a dog into the family can affect, like, their dynamic. Like, maybe it's like he could, like, idolize dogs and their behavior and obedience, and just thinks maybe if I bring a dog in that is very well trained, then he'll be like a
like a role model.
Yeah, like a fucking role model,
right,
for his kids.
Well, I think that's interesting too because the mom says, I'm going to birth a dog. So, like, it's almost like the dog is also going to be on the same playing field as another sibling. So it could be that case where he's bringing the dog in to be a role model for the children.
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude. And we already talked about the kids doing dog-like behaviors, like not just with the barking, but with the licking as well. Like that, like when it was introduced to the dad, or when we see it being happening, like licking to the dad, it was with the mother. She did it randomly. And like
he said that he had a tough day.
Yeah, but that was like her way to console him.
Yeah. And
it was like almost like we see it first introduced with Christina, like, oh, you have to lick me for this present.
Right.
Like, we don't know if it was done before Christina said that or like before, like by someone else.
Yeah.
And so I found it strange when she did that because it's like he wasn't like, the fuck is this? He like took it. And it's like,
it's like a thing.
Yeah.
Like a common thing.
Right. And so then after the eldest like disappears, the younger one goes to like lick her dad on the chest, and she's like, "Can I have your harpoon?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "No." And it's like it doesn't phase him, and I thought like that's strange. Like
Yeah, it's
even like him himself is like a regular person. Like he interacts with the regular world, and for things like that to not phase him like seems strange to me.
yeah, like he seems to have authority in his workplace.
Right.
So like, not only does he interact in the outside world, but like he is like a somewhat of an upstanding member of the outside world.
Right.
So,
I know, it's just so like, do I think that there is like incest between not just the brothers and sisters, but with the father as well? Maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like it wasn't really set up like that, but it could be possible. So like that stuff could be regular to them, but just the licking itself, how it was kind of framed to be introduced by Christina, and then just carrying on to like to make its way to the father, like the head of the pyramid, and him not being fazed by it. It felt almost like disconnected and weird for this world that has been created for me.
I felt like certain scenes were out of place.
Okay.
Most of them were just like cinematically.
Okay.
So like early on, we see the elder daughter and the son like fighting with some kind of like small sticks, and they're like in the sprinkler, and like just the way it's filmed like stands out. It looks different.
Right.
And then like the father, when he goes to talk to the dog trainer, up to this point, like most of the scenes have just been, like I mentioned, like things purposefully withheld from the frame. Meanwhile, when he's talking to this dog trainer, we get like these series of shots just focused on the trainer's like accolades almost.
Yeah.
Like plaques and trophies and
pictures of dogs.
Yeah, stuff like that. And like there's not really anything else like that in the movie.
Yeah, it's like there's no reason for the dog trainer's office to be like story told, you know, like there's no purpose for it.
Yeah. The scene that I thought was like the most out of place is when the eldest daughter goes and sits down at the feet of her father, who's like on the patio next to the pool, and she starts like clipping his toenails.
Oh yeah.
Which like in a movie like in a normal situation, it's like, whoa, that's fucking weird. Don't clip his toenails. But in this movie, like that makes sense.
Right.
What doesn't make sense to me is that he starts singing, and then after he starts singing, there's these series of shots, like one of his like two of the warehouse that he works at, like from the outside.
Yeah.
Like there's this, it's like a weird montage that takes place when he's singing, and he doesn't sing prior to that.
Right.
And it is just so out of place to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what this series of shots mean or what their significance is.
Yeah. And I don't
what
think
the lyrics to the song that he's singing.
Right. Like mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems so out of place in every facet.
Damn. What if that's just like another like tool to like keep us off our track or whatever?
Maybe. I mean, it could be like turning it on its head. Like I said, like normally a scene of somebody cutting somebody else's toenails is like cringy, but it makes sense for this movie. So like that wasn't what threw me off in that scene.
Okay.
So maybe that's what it is. It's like serving to like an to
like,
invert.
oh yeah, you don't think this is weird, but watch this.
Yeah. All right. So is that? I mean, we could go on about this movie.
We can dig up some more things that we'd like to talk about. Yeah. But
you think that pretty much does it?
Yeah, I think we're good. All right. We're wrapping this thing up.
Let's get into the ratings. Pilar, I want you to go first.
All right.
I still don't know what I'm going to give it.
So after kind of quickly going through my ratings, because it was really tough to like rate this movie. I don't quite like it. I don't hate it, but it's like, is it good? And that's the question. Overall, after like trying to analysis everything, like it did leave an impression on me. So I am giving it an 8.1 for right now.
Wow, okay.
That can change because I need to fully digest what I really watched.
Okay. I was going to say something similar as well. Not rating wise, but
Okay.
I have this much lower. That would be funny if we cut off there, wouldn't it?
It would.
Anyway, my rating is lower than yours.
Okay.
By 2 points. It is a 6.1. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Like, this film is well made.
Yes.
And it seems like a lot of thought went into it. Mm-hmm. It's like intellectually done.
Yes.
And I don't dislike it necessarily. Like, I watched the whole thing. I remember it really well because it was so weird. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like it's not very good.
Yeah, entertainment wise, I felt like no, like I was bored.
Like, I don't like these people.
Right.
It's super slow. Mm-hmm. You can easily interpret what the film is about, I feel.
Right. Yeah.
And it just goes through such great lengths to get there.
Yeah.
It's like unnecessary.
It's like doing cartwheels in the middle of the grass as an adult.
Yeah. It's like they have the entire plot written out, but then they try to like cut it so you see the minimum that you need to see to connect the dots. And it just feels like so much time went into that. Meanwhile, I could have like cared about any of the characters, you know?
Right.
Right. That being said, what is your one favorite thing about this movie, if you have a favorite thing?
So my favorite thing is when they are getting to watch the home movie as entertainment after dinner, and so you're like, oh, they get to watch like TV, cool. Yeah. And then you see, and it's just like a poorly made home movie, and then you're like, oh. But then the younger one is like reciting it, like she's seen it a billion times.
She's really into this home movie.
Yeah, and it's like her favorite movie. Like, that's like really cute, but like really weird.
Some of the actions that you see them do are like common, charming, or endearing actions, but just the circumstances surrounding them are so weird. Yeah.
It like makes me think of it like this TikTok that I watched where this girl's like, oh, you would never believe me, but like my favorite childhood toy was like a giant Halloween rat. Did I show you that? Mm-hmm. It's like, it shows like Polaroids of her like playing with this, having like a tea party with like this really scary looking rat. That was my favorite thing. What was your favorite thing?
All right, so it was hard to find a favorite thing. Like, there's no real comedy in the movie. There's a couple of like small things that, relative to everything else, are comedic.
Right.
But they're really just absurd. The most absurd thing, comedic wise, that happens is when the eldest daughter throws the toy plane out outside of the yard, and the brother's looking at it, and he goes inside and gets sliced. The younger daughter suggests that he just ask father to drive and get it for him. Right. And that's exactly what he does. He goes, his father comes home, he runs up to him, and he's like, Father, please get this toy plane for me, or whatever. And you see the father like start up the car and then drive like 5 feet.
Like not even like a foot.
He just drives, he's not even fully out of the yard.
Yeah.
Like the back of the car is still inside the fence. And he just opens the door, grabs it, closes the door, and then backs up a couple feet.
Into the gate.
and then just hands it out the window to the son who's just standing right there.
Yeah, he's like literally at the edge of the perimeter,
like on the line.
Yeah, and he's like, I can't move from here. I'm gonna die or whatever.
Like, so stupid. It's just such a stupid thing that acts as comedy in this movie.
Yes, we love it.
We love it. All right.
All right. Well,
so that pretty much wraps this up.
Yeah, that was Dogtooth for y'all.
Yeah.
Would I recommend? Sure, if you want to have like an okay, confusing time.
Yeah, so typically this is where we give you some other choices for the next movie that we're going to watch. However, we have already decided what the next episode is going to be, and we're not going to tell you.
Yeah, it's a little present for you guys.
Yeah, it's a little gift.
A little gift.
From us to you for this holiday season.
And you don't have to lick us for it.
Yeah, thank God for that.
That being said, follow us on this channel that we got here on YouTube. We're trying to get 100 subscribers so we can change our URL. On Instagram, we are There Will Be Podcast, and on Twitter, we are Pod From a Basket.
Yep.
We don't have, like we said, a voting session this time, but you can vote there, and you can usually vote in the comments as well.
Yeah. And good night.
Yes, good night.